Hi, I'm Arthur. And statistically speaking, there is at least one person who is going to be incredibly upset that the first video I make to cover a Xenos faction is going to be on the Leagues of Votann rather than an established race. It sucks to suck, I guess. I love my little stunties. Yeah. A little Arthur lore before we get into it. I have kind of a rule that I never collect more than one Imperium faction, one Chaos faction, and one Xenos faction. I started with Death Guard at the beginning of 8th edition. I have just unlimited Space Marines, and before you ask, I have 3 chapters, Minotaurs, Raptors, and Black Templars. But I had no aliens, no Xenos, for a very long while. I was contemplating getting Beast Snagga Boys, because I really love the feral orc aesthetic they have going on. And I really liked that Mad Max kill rig where they attached a Psyker as a fucking mobile artillery battery on the back of a gigantic squig. And then April 1st, 2022 happened. And I lost my damn mind. Of all the generic fantasy archetypes, the elves, humans, orcs, etc., my favorite has always been the dwarves. I love the slow-moving, heavily armored lads with axes and hammers. This shit is my jam. So immediately, I had to order the League of Votann's box. And I'm not going to get into the discourse of how weirdly good they were upon release in the competitive format. What I am going to discuss with you is the lore, which was kind of expected. I mean, it's not like you're watching an Auspex Tactics video. So, what exactly are the Leagues of Votann? It's kind of interesting. In the 40k universe, there are these things known simply as abhumans, which are human beings that eons ago went to the stars and colonized all sorts of different planets, and due to either radiation, high gravity, and other planetary stresses, over the years ended up physically changing to adapt to their circumstances. It sometimes led to them looking nothing like a human, or at least not your typical human. These make abhumans, things that are technically still under the umbrella of human, but are different in appearance. Good example, the Ogryn, which is the 40k universe equivalent of ogres, but they are humans, whom evolved on a high-gravity world and became bigger and denser as a byproduct. A similar mentality can be attributed to the Leagues of Votann, where essentially eons ago, allegedly even before the Emperor himself announced his presence to the world, these humans went off on mining expeditions on massive ships, which at the center of them are these supercomputers called STCs. What are STCs? Without going too nuts on the description, the easiest way to understand them is essentially a hyper-advanced 3D printer that can make more or less anything as long as you have the file for it. And you can modify and advance it as you see fit as long as you have the knowledge for it. They can make pretty advanced technology because of it, and they are also super fucking rare in the modern day. So these mining vessels went off to the center of the Milky Way, known simply as the Galactic Core. From there, they established these mining colonies where they would harvest many, many resources from every planet possible. Being cut off from Terra, or Earth as we know it, meant they had to now build their ships to be self-reliant, meaning no supplies coming in, no food coming in, everyone has to pull their weight, or we throw you into the fire to fuel the ship. So over thousands of years of hyper-utilitarian use, possibly due to radiation, and, you know, kind of focusing on the job a little too much, these individuals either lost the ability to procreate, or found it was kind of an unnecessary waste of resources. And they started cloning each other, modifying these clones each time with slight variables. They were able to make someone more compact who took up less space, meaning they didn't require as much space on the ship, meaning you could fit more workers. They had more complex digestive tracts that could make use of less resources in terms of food and organic stuff like that. They needed less water. Their skin was hardier, sometimes coming out even with like rocks on it. Like some of the kin that would come out of it have skin that looks like it's made of rocks because their skin is just so dense and durable. Their bones are a lot thicker, their muscular tissue is a lot denser. So eventually, all of this selective breeding made like the inverse of a pug. Beings perfectly suited specifically for mining and survival. Still short though, very short. Again, compact. With all of these changes happening over time, they eventually kind of became their own race. They aren't considered humans or abhumans under the Imperium's banners, actually being recognized formally as Xenos, like an alien race. The term that they use most often to identify themselves is the kin. Kin being used to describe the organic ones, because amongst their ranks are also iron kin, literal AI from the Dark Age of technology, which are very, very ominously similar to the Men of Iron, which tried to destroy all humanity once upon a time. We don't talk about it. Most of the universe is not allowed to find out about the Ironkin. The STCs that they had all those years ago are now known as the Votann, which are gigantic floating heads with computers in the center to produce all of their technology in clone schemes. Basically, the genetic template to make all of these clones. Okay, that was a lot all at once. I understand, take a breather. So let's talk about some mindless cool shit that is really easy to understand, and I think it's kind of neat. For one, these dudes lie to literally everyone. As I mentioned, the Ironkin, they just hide them. Whenever they interact with, like, the Imperium of Mankind, or God help you, the Mechanicum, they just hide the Ironkin somewhere. It just refused to let them know that they're there. They also have, like, hyper-refined, super-efficient weapons, which were created on a per-need basis, meaning if they were fighting someone who had, like, super dense armor, they would slowly start to modify their weaponry to punch through it. So now you have, like, a hole puncher gun. This leads to pretty neat shit, like hyper-super mining lasers, the conversion beamers that old Terra would use in military practices are now like these super advanced mining lasers. And not to fucking mention bolters, which are like Space Marine guns. Yeah, no, that's like one of the main workhorse weapons of the kin. It's this OTOC pattern bolter that is just as strong as a Space Marine's bolt gun, but, you know, bite-sized. So they lie about all of this technology because if the Mechanicum ever got wind of it, they would come hunting for it. And if they got wind that there were functioning STCs there, they would wage war with every single member of their faction coming together just to get a smell of it. STCs are one of the most sought after things for the Mechanicum, to the point where there was a guy who found a piece of one, not even a full STC, a shard, that taught them how to make knives mass-produced sharper, and he was given his own planet. They wanted it that bad. So the kin pretend to be literal idiots around the Imperium, especially the Mechanicum, just so they wouldn't go looking into them. I think that's hilarious! They see the Mechanicum as like one of the biggest threats to their society because if they find out about it, of course, they're going to wage war. But the fact that they pretend to have barely functioning technology around the Mechanicum is one of the funniest facts about their lore. So onto the groupings and how they identify themselves. Their entire society is about prolonging their individual groupings. So each major mining ship that has a Votann on it is called a league, and each of these leagues is made up of smaller guilds. Each guild is kind of like a workshop that specializes in certain tasks, as if you are on this massive ship, you have a job from minute one. Like, you are cloned to do something, so you are going to do it. There is no space for weakness in a league. So the leaders of these guilds is usually a call if it's like a war type guild, like a combat-based thing. Sometimes there can be leaders that are called Brokir, which are the engineers. They also are the forge masters who make things using the STCs and forge like artificer weapons and all that. When it comes to the calls, which are the leaders of the warring groups, there's only one right now that I think we know about that has a name, because the faction's so new that there's no like major named characters yet, and that's High Call Uther, whom doesn't have too much lore, but he is kind of interesting. I may give him a video at some point when there's more to talk about, but as it stands, he's kind of cool. So I know the question a lot of you have is this, especially if you've been involved in 40k lore for a while. How the fuck does the League's Votann connect with the squats? It's a bit silly. A lot of the lore is up for debate because it was during that era of Rogue Trader, which, if you don't know, Rogue Trader is essentially Warhammer 1st edition. And none of that lore is like canon, but some of it is. GW is very kind of fucky with it. To give you an idea of why the squats were there, or the kin as they're called now, 40K was supposed to be a novelty where they were just selling the toys, the miniatures to play the game. It was supposed to be kind of a side game to like Warhammer Fantasy or just Warhammer, where all the factions of Warhammer were going to be in Warhammer 40K, but with like a sci-fi equivalent. So they had to have dwarves, so the squats were invented, which were just literally just Space Dwarves. Their lore back then was super different. It is kind of mentioned in the modern day as a bit of a myth. So the original squats were said to have been eaten by Tyranids, and that's how they ended up ending the lore and removing them from the setting, which is weird but very GW-like. So in the lore now, it was explained in the lore that a large hold of kin, which a hold is just a base of operations for the League, was attacked by Tyranids, and they fought to the last man to defend the planet, thinking the Tyranids wanted to get to the Votann at the center, that the STC I mentioned. Turns out no, they just wanted to eat the dwarves and steal the resources on the planet, leaving the semi-sentient Votann still just on the planet with no one to tend to it. In its loneliness, it actually went insane. Kin from other leagues to this day are actually warned to never go there, or else they're going to hear the voice of the insane Votannic core, which is kind of neat. So one last major interesting point about the leagues is that their entire society has kind of devolved into making sure the Votann survive, as all their resources, clones, equipment, and technology come from them because it's the STC. All things rust and die, so each Votannic core is slowly going senile. Each individual kin is tasked with living a life as brazenly as they want, because when they die, there is a process of them being converted back into raw resources, but also having their memories and information converted into raw data to feed to the Votannic core, so the STC. So the more someone knows, the more that when they die is contributed to the archives of the core, giving better technologies. So say a master engineer dies, his mind is incorporated into the core. Every single thing that he knew how to make is now able to be made by the STC. The sad byproduct of this is, the more information it consumes, the slower it takes to retrieve other pieces of information, to the point where there are specialized members of the kin being cloned in order to seek information as quickly as possible, and their entire genetic code was made to be able to interface with the Votann to find out more, and these are called Grimnir, which are also kind of psychers, but it's complicated. So as the Votann age, even if you discount the senility that is coming from them slowly getting too much information, they slowly begin to shut down, just by the fact of them being old machines, and all machines end up being obsolescent at some point. Some have actually already shut down in lore, leaving the kin of those cores to wander the stars, not able to reproduce on their own. They make worse and worse clones of each other, their technology worsening more and more. These are actually the kin that you see in the Necromunda box set, which are the Ironhead Squats, if I remember they're called. So they are kind of on the verge of a deep-seated societal collapse, which is super grimdark. They are a bit lighthearted and kind as a society in comparison to the rest of 40K. Even in comparison to Tau, I don't even think the Tau get along together as well as the kin do. The fact that their only means of survival is just about to stop being a thing, holy shit, things are gonna get rough fast. Other than that, there isn't much more lore to go around for them yet, as they are only about a year old as they are now. But I love the lore they have now, because I am easily amused. I hope you all like the kin and their little robots, because I really, really do. And I really want to make more content around them, but there's only so much to talk about without having to say stuff about the squats, which it's not relevant right now, so it doesn't really matter. I don't know, would any of you be interested in learning about squat lore? There's not a lot, but, you know, I could do it. As per the usual, like, comment, and subscribe. And don't worry, the next Xenos race I cover will be the Tyranids, when I get to it. I mean, how hard could it be to cover giant bugs? It's not like they have any named characters. I mean, other than the Parasite of Mortrex. Oh, well, and the Doom of Malantai. Ah, fuck me. And Old One-Eye. Why do we keep naming... Hi, hello. This is post-video Arthur here. I got nothing. I don't really have another joke to say. I just want to say, again, thanks for watching. I've put a lot of effort into this, and I wasn't kidding when I said that, like, Leagues of Votann are one of my favorite factions in 40k right now. I know there isn't much to be said about them, I just really like their aesthetic. So I hope me rambling about them for, I think, Jesus, 15 minutes, and that's not including the stuff that I cut out. Yeah, I hope me rambling about it for such a long period of time was entertaining to listen to. And I mean it, I am going to cover Tyranids next. I'm going to try and hit them next week, but, no, post-credit joke here. Just thank you for watching, and thanks again for 1,000 subs. It really means a lot. I'll see you all in the next video.